How you set it up?
So have like
Good evening. I'd like to call to order this regular meeting of the Rutherford Board of Education for December 9th, 2019. And I would like to stand and we'll pledge allegiance to the flag behind us, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, and thank you for coming out this evening. I'd ask the secretary to please call the roll.
Mrs. Ahmed?
Here.
Dr. Olati?
here.
Mr. Healy?
Here.
Mrs. Jones?
Present.
Mrs. Librera?
Here.
Mr. Mazzone?
Here.
Dr. Racine?
Here.
Mr. Rowland?
Here.
Mr. McLean?
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this act, the Rutherford Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, place posted and place posted on the bulletin board outside of the Borough Clerk's office, mailed to the Herald, South Bergenite, and Record newspapers, and filed with the Borough Clerk. Hard copies of the agenda are available here in the meeting room, and the agenda was posted electronically last Friday on the district's website at www.rutherfordschools.org. Taping and broadcasting of the meetings, as we're doing tonight, regular meetings of the Rutherford Board of Education will be broadcast without editing during a 2-hour segment as limited by Comcast time constraints. On Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. on Comcast Public Access Channel and on FiOS Channel 38. A video of the meeting can also be viewed on our website, www.rutherfordschools.org. The video link can be found by opening the Board of Education link and clicking on Public Meetings and then clicking on Videos. Any member of the public who wishes to view a DVD of this meeting can make that request in writing to the Board Secretary. Members of the board, in your packets were the minutes from the regular meeting of November 18th. Were there any, and there was no executive session that evening, so are there any comments or corrections to be made in those minutes? Seeing none, I would ask the secretary to please post those, file them and post them. And we have this evening several special presentations, so I'll turn it over to Mr. Hurley.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for coming out on tonight on a rainy night. We appreciate that you're here. We do have some special presentations. I'd like to begin by letting everyone be aware of how the Board of Education's functions in terms of its lifespan. The board every year gets reorganized and comes to life at the first meeting in January. And at that point, the board in the reorganization selects a president, vice president, and reestablishes itself as a board for the upcoming year, which then means at the end of the calendar year, December, the current board has its last meeting. And as you know, every November, there's an election where 3 board seats are up each November, so that members are elected to a 3-year term. This year, we had 2 of our board trustees who elected not to run again. So tonight, it's their final meeting as a member of the Board of Education. So I'm going to ask our board vice president, Mr. Mazzone, to present to each of these trustees a gift from the Board of Education to thank them for their service. And I'd like to first recognize Mr. Eddie Rowland, Mr. Rowland was elected to the board in 2016. He served a 3-year term. And although the term of 3 years may not be long, it certainly was eventful. The past 3 years, I think, and I think many of the board members here could agree, and many, I hope the public could agree, has been a very important and really changing moment for the district. During that time frame, we created many special education programs, an 18 to 21 year program, a Chromebook one-to-one for all of our students, and of course, the referendum. So, as is the case with our other retiring trustee, this has been a period of change, and this board and the boards that have been in existence for the last few years will have a lasting impact, positive impact, on the future of the district. So on behalf of the district, Mr. Maison, we'd like to thank Mr. Rowland for his service to the board. Thank you. Yeah, but,
Thank you very much.
the gentleman who's sitting to, you want to comment just about Eddie, or want to do them both? Well, okay, we'll do Mr. Rowland first. I was going to do a.
Is this a roast?
Separate roast. That's exactly the word I was going to say. Tally's about to roast you.
No. I just wanted to take the opportunity to say thank you to Eddie. I think you've been a very effective board member, and as Jack mentioned, during a very busy time for the board. I think, Eddie, one thing that I think you've inspired in all of us is an ability to voice your opinions very clearly, to ask all of the questions that you think need to be asked, and to stand on the front foot of those questions versus waiting for maybe someone else to ask the questions, or waiting maybe for a different time. So I think you are very effective in representing the community in sharing concerns, sharing questions, and I think we've benefited as a board absolutely from having your perspective and your voice here. So thank you.
Here.
Yes, Mr. Johnson.
I'd just like to add that I really enjoyed sitting next to you. I did not know what to expect because we didn't really know you. At least I didn't know you when you came on. But you, as Sally said, you have been an effective board member, and we'll miss you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
The only thing I'd like to add to that is I'm sure we've not heard the last of Eddie Rowland. For anyone who doesn't know, Eddie's also a MMA fighter, and I think he's going to keep on fighting for the borough of Rutherford, so we appreciate that, Ed. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'll just, I'd like to also express thank you for your service on the board. It's, as Diane Jones referenced, we really didn't know you well coming in, but it was refreshing, the spirit and the attitude and the engagement that you were willing to take on. So thank you very much on behalf of the town.
Thank you. The second trustee who was his last meeting tonight is the gentleman sitting to my right, and Mr. Kevin McLean has been a board member for 15 years. He came on the board in 2004, so that's a heck of a long time of service to the students and to the faculty and to the staff and to the community of Rutherford. When we talk about the last 3 years and all that's happened, if you roll the clock back to 2004, and towards the end of the last major renovation we did to our buildings, and the changes that have occurred in education, the changes that have occurred in the district are enormous. And Ms. McLean has had a hand in all of that as a member of the board, and certainly in the last 4 years now, or 4.5 years, I think it's 4.5 years, he has served as president of the board. Again, during that time when so many positive events have occurred in this district. So, it is certainly Always sad to see board members leave, but someone who has been a part of the board for a decade and a half, that's a tremendous loss and be a change in the structure of the board. So again, on behalf of the district, we'll present Mr. McLean with a small token of our appreciation for his 15 years of service. And again, any comments from board members?
If I could make just a few comments. I've been on the board approximately 4 years. During that time, Kevin has been the president. Kevin has been an excellent role model and leader for boardsmanship. Kevin's thoughtful stewardship, his engagement of other board members, consideration for all of us, bringing us up to speed, involving us in everything from the complexities of negotiation to, our interfacing and our responsibilities as board members, not only with the superintendent, but the community. Kevin, you've taught us all a lot, and I, for one, am grateful for that. Being the president is a heavy burden some days to bear that, and it's not always a popular position, but I think you've done it with diplomacy, and I think you've done a tremendous job, and I think anyone stepping into that seat has a lot to live up to. So thank you. On behalf of your colleagues, because what I presented you was from the district, but what we would like to do as board members through the REF, we would like to buy a brick for you. It would be here at school, here at the high school, an 8x8 stepping stone commemorating your time and service here. Not to tread on you, of course, but to recognize you, again, for 15 years of service is no small task. So I'd ask everyone, please, to give Kevin an outstanding round of applause.
Yes, Ms. Jones.
I'd just like to add one brief comment. Back in 2005, and it's only Shelley and I now that were with you at that time, I remember at one point you going, or at least Leslie told me, you went to Ms. O'Keefe to say, I'm not sure I should stay on, my travel has really stepped up and so forth. And I happened to be with her that day, and she said, when I heard that, she said, oh no, you can't let him leave, talk him into staying. If we miss his meetings, it doesn't matter, because when you're here, we all know you're here, and your wisdom has saved us many, many times. So I am very grateful for all the years that you have served.
Thank you.
If I could add, Kevin's leaving, I'm leaving. But we have an incredible travel schedule. Our daughters went to school together in high school. They're both finishing up college now. But it was really important to me to serve my community, and that was a great role model that you gave me by putting in 15 years. And I'm sure you're not done. You'll be around and willing to help and part of committees. No pressure.
Thank you.
Mr. Mann.
I believe I was with, I was with Kevin all those years that he's been on the board, and we had the first negotiation team that he and I were on, and I was so impressed with his secretarial skills. No one here could ever, get better than he was. We went through hiring 4 different superintendents together, and it's so odd, or it was such a grateful thing to be able to work with someone that was always so courteous, such a gentleman, never lost his temper, and was all over the world, but we would call him on the phone and he would answer. And I can't imagine anyone that put more effort into being, a consummate gentleman and the best president I've ever seen. So thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
I would just
No, go ahead.
Mr. Healy.
very simply thank you for your mentorship. The last few years I've been here, and you showed us the way, and particularly me a lot of times, so thank you.
Yeah, I was going to say, I joined the board, I think it's 6 years ago now. And I certainly learned quite a bit from Shelley and from Diane. But I truly valued the friendship and the mentorship from Kevin. Some of it was just from watching him in action, the way that I'm sure many of us have through the years in public meetings. But I was also fortunate enough to be the vice president to Kevin's presidency for several years. I think it was several. And which afforded me the opportunity to not just sort of fill in for him from time to time when he wasn't here and recognize all the things that he was leading and carrying, but also to have opportunities one-on-one to hear from him and to hear his expertise and his perspective on things. And I can say, without doubt, he was consistently measured, smart, passionate, and sincere with respect to the office that he held. He never took it lightly. He paid very, very close attention to the detail, even with a very demanding professional life and personal life with lots of responsibilities outside of this role. I think he truly epitomizes what it means to be a public servant and to be an amazing public servant at that. And I think in Rutherford, where I am consistently struck by the strong sense of volunteerism in the community, even in that context, Kevin stands out as something particularly extraordinary. And I think the last 15 years are certainly testament to that contribution and to that service. So I think the board and the school district and the community are better off for your service. And I think you're leaving a legacy behind, certainly with the fellow board members, but also with the district and the community. So huge thank you.
Yep. Dr. Alati?
So there's very little left to add, except to say that before I joined the Board of Education, always been a believer in the commitment of schools. And just a testament to hearing what everyone's saying this evening, I think speaks to what I've always seen as the strength of this board. But I think a board is also as strong as its leadership. And so this is really, to me, since I've been on the board, a very well-functioning board. And I think a lot of that has to do with the mentorship and the leadership and what you've provided. So just a thank you on top of everything else.
Thank you, sir.
Dr. Hussein?
So I can't add much except that as the only remaining engineer scientist on the board, I'm going to miss your spreadsheets and your process and the flow. And I appreciate it very much.
Okay. You want to speak? Or you want to speak during your report?
First of all, to everyone sitting there, I apologize. I had no idea that that was going to be delaying you from what you came for. And I had prepared some words for my fellow board members, but I'm going to encumber you a little further, and I'm going to read them now. Not for me, but so that hopefully you gain some appreciation of these folks, and even more importantly, that you or somebody you may know or influence who is thinking about serving on the board, you can help them or yourself make that step. It's such an important function for our town, I think. So what I'd like to say is, I've mentioned to my colleagues in public meetings before that, when I was first asked to run for the school board, the only thing I knew about our schools was where I dropped my daughters in the morning. That really was it. And now it's actually closer to 16 years because we used to start in April.
That's true.
And so now after some 16 years, I guess I know a little bit more. Certainly much more that you can learn, and I'm going to miss learning that on a regular basis. But hopefully I've been able to contribute a little bit, because every time I'm involved with anything with our schools, I marvel at what it takes, the process, the organization, and the professionalism of the people that work with your students in our schools, and they deserve all the support that we can give them. It's an understatement to refer to this as tremendously rewarding. I've often and always, I guess, felt that I take away more than I give. Hopefully I've done some small good along the way. And I've always tried to keep a couple of tenets in sight. One is, which you all do, consistently, and we hope that you understand the board does, is to make decisions with the welfare of the students in mind, and to weigh alternative points, but to avoid personal agendas or agendas of other groups. And then, of course, the big thing that I'm always preaching is to remember that our job is to see that the schools are run well, not to run the schools. And with that in mind, we hire professionals, namely these two gentlemen on either side of me. And Shelley, to your point that we went through the hiring of 4 superintendents, I think we've gotten it right. You know?
This time, right?
We certainly have it right now. So I'm humbly grateful to the 8 of you and to you gentlemen flanking me, but also grateful to the many board members and administrators and staff that I've worked with over those many years. It was, you know, everyone had the same level of dedication and same positive attitude. I'm grateful for the really inspiring staff that come to work every day in our schools and work with our students. You know, to you students, it may be hard to understand how valuable they are going to be as you look back, as you grow, how valuable they were to you as you grow. And as Mr. Hurley said, our town has turned the page on a new chapter. And so, you know, all the district stakeholders are going to be heavily involved with that. I know I'm going to suffer some depression being on the, you know, being on the sideline or being up in the stands watching that. But knowing the talent of you all and of you two and the entire district, I know that it's going to be extraordinarily successful. And children that have not even entered the schools yet are going to benefit from it in their high school years. It's an articulation from pre-K to graduation, and in many cases beyond. So I'm just extraordinarily grateful, again, to you 10, to the townspeople of Rutherford for allowing me to be a part of this and for placing some trust in me over these years. Thank you. Thank you.
Let me continue with you.
Yes.
Again, I want to congratulate both Eddie and Kevin and thank them. And I know that you folks have been here, you know, as Mr. McLean said, to get your recognition, and I thought it was important for you to hear not only about these two gentlemen, but about the Board of Education. You know, these folks are volunteers. They have jobs, they have families, they have responsibilities, and they devote a great deal of time and energy and effort to helping ensure that the schools are well run. And it's certainly an important job. And for the students that are here, I think it's a lesson of service. And as you go forward, whether it's Board of Education, volunteering for a committee, charitable work, being involved in something that's bigger than yourself. And that's an important lesson. So I thought it was important for you to hear this and to witness it, and I do appreciate your indulgence, and I hope you share my feeling of gratitude, not only to the two gentlemen who are leaving, but to all the members of the board for the work they do on your behalf. Our second special presentation is to recognize the artwork that's currently on display up in Borough Hall outside the Board of Education office. This is art done by our students at Union School. And it's always a pleasure for me to get to see the work on display. This is going to be part of my comments later on, so I'm not extending the length of the meeting. I'm just moving something to a different spot. But there's a new group formed in town, an art council, and they contacted me just yesterday to get some of our high school artwork on display on Park Avenue. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing Cochia Realty, is that, in their storefront during the month of January. And we're working on getting some of that artwork on display. And there's going to be an art festival sometime in the spring that will feature our students throughout the district and their artwork. So the arts are such an important part of our culture and our life in this community and nationwide, worldwide, again, that it's great to see young artists with so much talent. So I'm going to ask Ms. McLean to join your art teacher, Ms. Klubik, to present our certificate of appreciation and acknowledgement for the work you've done.
Hi, thank you all for having us. This is a very, I feel like I'm too tall for this. This is a very talented group of students, and I'm very proud to present these awards to all of you today. Isabella Claveria, come on up. Emma Wizard. Rachel Vidal. Hannah Caceres. Mia Febo. Veronica Masick. Ariana Medina. Deborah Morales Menjivar. Ellie Schmidt. Adrian Marullo. Sophia Lanchipa. Rolando Dogier. Emily Castro Bonilla. And these students couldn't be with us today, but they are Ava Amatucci, Luke Gascione, and Kai Noguchi. Congratulations.
And as we're finishing this the presentation to Ms. Klubik and Mr. Met, who's a member of our art department, who's here filming, to all of our teachers, the arts are alive and well because of the work not only of our students, but the cooperation of the parents, but the work of our faculty and staff. And I could just, again, moving 2 items from my report to, while you're here, there's 2 things I'd like the parents to hear, because certainly, as Mr. McLean always says, you're invited to stay for the meeting, but we know you have things to do, a busy time of year. But there's 2 items I want to let you hear. One is, the Art Council that I spoke about. At the high school, we just got notice today that for the 4th consecutive year, the high school has been given status of achieving school by the College Board for advanced placement scores and testing. And what that means is that we are doing 2 things. We're increasing the number of students who are taking AP tests, and we are raising the percentage of students who are achieving what's considered a passing score for college credit. The announcement just came out today, but in some years, the percentages of schools across the country that get that recognition has been about 5%. So it puts the high school in a very prestigious and elite group, and this is the 4th consecutive year that we've been chosen. And the second has to do with Union School. Last year, the STEAM team won, I want to make sure I get this right, the New Jersey 2019 STEM Research Project Award, and working once again this year to try to get a repeat of that. And what they're going to be doing in the next few weeks is using a drone that they've developed on Springfield, right by the school, to monitor traffic patterns at the 7th grade drop-off. And they're going to take the aerial data and then work on developing the concept of how the traffic pattern goes and how maybe it could be improved and developed, and make suggestions both to the administration and to the borough. to give you an idea of what they had to do, they had to reach out to the FAA to make sure they were flying in the right, height. They had to deal with low altitude authorization, a whole lot of acronyms that they had to explain to me. And again, these are our students in the 7th and 8th grade. So we, as a community, as a board, as administrators, as staff, as faculty, as parents, as students, have an awful lot to be proud of. And at a time of year that we reflect and we think back on the past year, we think of the holidays, and we get reflective. I think we have a lot to be grateful for with our students, our faculty, our staff, and the board. So congratulations to everyone, and I was happy. I'm always happy to come to a meeting and share good news, and talk about things that are positive. So I turn it back.
So we'll do just one more short student involved issue before we'll take a break. I would like to ask our student representative from the high school, Bridget Boylan, to please make her report to the board, please, and to the members.
Good evening, everyone. As we get closer to our holiday break, Rutherford High School is getting in the spirit. Everyone is working hard to get to the end of the year. Coming up, we have our winter pep rally and winter assembly. Thank you. At the winter pep rally, we introduce winter sports teams and everyone cheers for their respective grade level. On Friday the 20th, on the half day, we have a winter assembly, which began last year. Everyone gathers in the auditorium and listens to the band, choir, and some of the teachers perform and cheers them on. We started this so the band could get more appreciation. People would pay more attention to them than they got during the pep rally. Moreover, at the winter assembly, the student body participates in games such as a school-wide Kahoot, which gets everyone spirited for the holiday break. Throughout the school, students in various clubs have been working to collect gifts for underprivileged children in New Jersey. The National Honor Society is collecting shoeboxes for students that have hygiene items, candies, toys, and things that these kids do not normally have access to. Many other clubs, such as FTA, Spanish Honor Society, and other programs across town, participate in making these boxes as well. The officers will be delivering these next Thursday to kids to look at their reaction and see how happy this will make them. Speaking of the National Honor Society, we did win our spelling bee against Becton, and Rian Chowdhury was the overall winner. Moreover, the Future Business Leaders and Future Teachers of America clubs have been collecting teddy bears to deliver to children in Jersey City for Christmas. A number of other clubs have participated, but these students will go to Jersey City and deliver these gifts to the kids, which always makes them so happy. The Varsity Club, the Spanish Club, and the Spanish Honor Society are collecting new toys for the Child Life program at Hackensack Hospital. These toys will be delivered to the hospital for pediatric patients to play with during their stay at the hospital. The school is doing a lot of charity work for underprivileged kids during the holiday season. Personally, I find it amazing that the school is doing so much good. In the sports realm, all fall sports have come to an end and all winter sports have begun practicing. The varsity dinner for fall sports season was before Thanksgiving, honoring all fall varsity athletes. The only sport that has begun to compete is swimming, who had to meet against Garfield Hasbrook Heights this last Tuesday, and both the boys and girls team won. Most other sports will be beginning games this week or next week and will practice throughout this holiday break. Meditation Mondays, Yoga Wednesdays, and Self-Defense Thursdays have been attracting a large crowd of students and have been very successful. Many teachers have requested a self-defense course for themselves as well. The Wellness Club is going to be selling hot chocolate and chocolate-covered pretzels to raise money for the club. With this money, we hope to begin more programs throughout the school, like those previously listed, to promote student health and happiness. The Health Careers Club has been selling bagels to raise money for a surgery for children and is getting close to reaching their goal and helping the child get the surgery they need. It is wonderful to see how the students and faculty at the school act as we get closer to the holidays and the sense of giving we all feel. I am in awe of all the charity work the school is doing in preparation for the holidays, and I'm excited to see how everything turns out. I hope you all have a good night and happy holidays.
Thank you, Bridget.
Thank you, Bridget. Thank you. Are there any questions from any board members or comments to our student representative regarding her report?
I'd like to make one comment.
Yes.
Mr. Rowland?
Yes.
Do you recall the winning word for the spelling bee or a difficult word that stands out?
The word that won against Becton was, I think, dysrhythmia. But I don't know the word that Rian got that one because they had to move it on to Monday morning because all the students in Rutherford were doing so well not getting out.
We had to go to overtime. Yeah.
I think our outgoing board members should give that one a shot.
I would just like to add the long list of gifts and teddy bears and toys that are collected by the various clubs. I think, for example, just with the teddy bears, like 150 of them or something along those lines, and are delivered to hospitals and schools in some areas where a lot of kids don't get other presents. This has been going on, started off maybe 25, 30 years ago in the high school, and it just keeps growing every year. And the thing that impressed me when I was in the high school and now as superintendent is we don't require this of our students. There's no requirement for community service. And yet we get so many of our students and all of our clubs giving up so much. And again, it goes back to what I said before about service. So I really want to applaud the student body. And in the younger grades, similar, maybe a little smaller scales, but similar activities are taking place. You know, I've said this so many times at parent meetings. You have your own children, you look at them, you know the quality of these young children. Don't believe the doom and gloom reports. We're in a good place with our kids. Students do a heck of a job, and you know, I'm very proud of them, proud of how they think of others at this time of year especially. So thank you for the report, and please convey to the student body our thanks and appreciation for everything they're doing.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. And you know, for you Union School students who will be, you know, going to high school, if you're wondering what you're going to be doing in high school, you're going to be busy with that list, and it really was impressive, and thank you for sharing it with us. If there are, yes, Mrs. Smith.
You know, it's such a pleasure hearing a high school representative explain everything that these children do besides going and doing their schoolwork. They volunteer, they get involved in the community, and no one knows about this. They're so concerned. A lot of people are concerned. How come we're not the blue ribbon school again? We've surpassed that. You know, somehow we should put all these accolades into the newspaper, print them up monthly, or you know, say what our children are doing, and let the people know actually, because it's so impressive.
Well, you know, we have the website where most of this stuff does go on. You should check the website. And I encourage parents, don't just check your school's website. I know that's what most of us are going to do, but take a look at what's going on at Lincoln School, at the high school, at Pierpont School. Especially look ahead to the school you might be heading to, so you get a sense of what's going on. And to your point, Ms. Ahmed, we're working with our communications consultant, who's going to be visiting every school in January, spending an hour and a half with each principal, walking the halls, to talk a little bit about the special programs and initiatives going on, so we could try to increase the amount of information we're getting out with positive news. So we're working on that. And I think that's a very good point. You know, but please, you know, visit the website. You know, try to get the information that's out there, and be looking for more information to come.
Okay, I know it seems longer, but we've actually only been here 38 minutes. If there is no objection from a board member, we'll take a 5-minute recess, allow students who maybe have to get home to do homework the ability to get out of here, and you may be excused as well if you would like.
Okay.
Okay. No objections. We're in 5-minute recess. We'll call the meeting back to order. Thank you again for all those kind words. Do I have to give the car back?
Yeah. You know, the shirt you get to wear. We're just gonna sew in ex-member.
Circle with a line through it. I like emeritus.
You don't get
Emeritus. Yeah. Nicer way of saying it, right.
So the next item on the agenda is the report of the superintendent.
Yeah.
We've covered some. But
Yep, very short report. Just a couple of things I didn't go over. And one of them, two things. The first is I've been asked, and students from the high school have been asked to participate, and we've accepted, in a ceremony on Dr. King's, to honor Dr. King, Martin Luther King, on Martin Luther King Day, January 20th this year, at the Mount Arafat Baptist Church. I will be apparently the speaker, and we'll have members of our choir perform, and we're going to, of the high school choir, and we're going to have some of our high school students do a couple of readings, and that's going to be at 1 o'clock on January 20th. Okay, so I'm very honored and pleased to participate, and I'm very happy that they've asked our students to participate as well. The second bit of news, I'm going to have Mr. Kelly give you a little more of the details, but we were very pleased with the bond auction, bond sale. It was fun to sit in the office and watch these things, pop up on the screen, and Dr. Racine was there, and have folks, in via phone to join us, our financial advisors. We were very happy that we had, and I included in the packet for you, Mr. Kelly and I did, that we had 8 firms competing, and you can see that the interest rates that they came in at were all very close, and we're very pleased that the percent came in lower than what we anticipated when we had looked at potential bond ratings back in the summer. And we're also happy that we'll be closing later this month, which, as we said before, means that we will be getting state funding beginning next year, so that we won't, if we had gone later with the election, if we had gone later with the bond process, we would not get money in year one, and we would still have to be paying the bills without that money coming in. So, Mr. Kelly, you want to add any information?
Yeah, I'll just add that the process from our perspective started several weeks ago. I had a conference call with Standard & Poor's because they were developing a bond rating for this district. As I mentioned to you at the time, we received a rating of a AA minus, which is actually pretty good. I mean, as we've discussed in the past, we're dragged down a bit by our affiliation with the state of New Jersey, which has a terrible bond rating. So so we're always struggling with that. But another concern that has been expressed, not so much this time, is that the ratings agencies like to see fund balance. They like to see surplus. They like to see that we're building up money year after year. We're not spending the budget, and we're saving it, which we do. I think we do a good job of that, but we put it in the capital reserve, and we use it for building projects, which is the responsible thing to do also. So we're not building up that surplus that they would ideally like to see, but we have a good track history with putting money into the capital reserve, which is part of surplus, and then we use it for its intended purpose. So I think that's just a cross we're going to have to bear the next time we have to do this, or any time we have to go out for a bond rating. So the AA minus is actually very good. I'd prefer something better, but the difference between a AA category and a AAA category is really minimal. And I think I sent you the language on that Standard & Poor's definition of what that distinction really is. So so that was good. We had a nice conversation just about the town as well, which is something they look at. They want to know what's going on in this community. We're 8 miles from New York City. A lot of big old Victorian houses. There's an active downtown. There's a place people want to be. So all that, I think, played very favorably toward the bond rating. So last week we had the bond auction. It was scheduled for the 4th, I think, which was last Wednesday. As Mr. Hurley mentioned, there were 8 bidders, which was good. That's a lot of interest to show for a local municipal offering. And it also bodes well for the competition among them. They've really got to sharpen their pencils if there are 8 of them, or if there is that much interest. So the low bid came in is a company called Hutchinson something. They're out in the Midwest, but still, in this internet age, they can participate. They came in at about 2.792225, I think, percent interest overall over the 25 years. When we discussed this with the community over the course of talking about the referendum and leading up to the vote, the numbers we gave everybody were based on an assumption of 3.1%. So we came in better than that. So it means the tax impact will be less than has been communicated to the public. So that's all good. I don't know, to be honest, I don't think, the average taxpayer will see a huge savings based on what they were expecting, but it is a savings. So, I mean, it's all positive. Our advisors, I spoke to our bond counsel on Friday. She was still walking on clouds because it all worked out so well for us. And frankly, I was too, and, I still am. This was a big win. So, that process is drawing to a close. Speaking of closing, that should close on December 19th, at which point we'll have the money in the bank. You're being asked to approve a bank account that's already been opened with BCB to hold these funds. And there was something else I wanted to say. No, I've forgotten it. But I think that's essentially it. So it's good news.
Yep.
And I think Dr. Racine had wanted to.
Because you had that, the 3.1 to 2.79 may sound like a lot, but if I did everything right over the 25 years, it's saving $2 million. So, it is a big deal.
Yeah.
If anybody is interested in purchasing these bonds, because whatever the Hutchinson, whatever the company is called, they purchased everything and they'll be reselling. So contact your broker or contact them directly and see how to affect that. But
It's Hutchinson, Shockey, Early, not Hurley, Early. E-R-L-E-Y, okay? And that was, I don't want that getting out there, it's E-R-L-E-Y, okay? I will, it is very good news. And, I want to thank Mr. Kelly and it's a lot of work that he did. I mean, some meetings I sit in and I feel very, very confident. Sometimes in this meeting I felt like, I need a translator in my ear for some of this stuff. The work that Mr. Kelly did to work with our bond counsel and with our financial advisor, and also to make sure that we were, understood the process. It was a good process. In general, tomorrow I'll be meeting with the Borough Building Inspector and our architects to start to talk about the plans, specifically about Lincoln School, where we did receive the final approval from the state for that, because we have to, we send the final plans down. So we sent down for Lincoln, we sent down for part of Union, and we sent down for the high school science labs. And then the next step after that will be going out to bid process. Every day there's been either a meeting or a series of emails and phone calls. It's a consistent work in process. But everything so far, we have not hit any hiccups yet. Things are going very smoothly. We will be meeting also with the ad hoc committee we set up of some of the members of our facility advisory committee, the local gentlemen that were architects, and we are going to meet with them in January just to update them on where we're at and just have a little dialogue with them on that. I think that's January 21st maybe, or something like that. So a lot's going on. And we're making a lot of, it doesn't seem like anything's happening, but a lot is happening, and we're getting ready to get to the point where bids go out, get awarded, and we're on target for work to begin in June. Okay? So I did want to mention one other thing when our student rep was here, but I think we started having a student rep towards the end of, right before I became principal, somewhere in like the late 90s or so, or thereabouts, I don't remember exactly. And now there's a bill that's moving forward to require boards of educations to have, if you have a high school, to have a student rep on your board. So it's nice to see that once again they're catching up to us. Yeah, they're catching up, that we were trendsetters. But that's a nice thing to see. So I'm done.
I think the first student board member was Beth Schneider.
Might have been. If that's the case, then I just became principal, I think, yeah. Or assistant. See, that was my idea. Another great idea I had.
Any questions or comments for the superintendent regarding the report? Or
Congratulations.
Yes.
You've done a great job with this.
Oh, well,
and we're very appreciative.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
No,
Expertise
it's
was
not me,
also
but thank you.
valuable.
It's
Seconded and unanimously agreed. Yeah, so it's good. Very good. Okay, moving on to the president's report. You've heard me talk enough tonight. I'll just say, so the committee assignment sheet, which is normally sent out, around the reorganization meeting, we wanted to get that out early so people got back. Have we received
Yes.
back everyone?
Not everyone. 1, 2, 3, 4, counting the new members. I think we received 5.
Okay. So that's more than halfway there. If you haven't sent yours in, send it in, so that all those are together, and whoever is the new president will have that information, and you hit the ground running for next year. The other item, which I had spoken with some members about, the board evaluation, which I have the consolidated evaluation, and somehow I got on the wrong page with Matt Lee. He sent this to me this afternoon. I thought it was sent earlier, but so I couldn't work on it over this past weekend. But I've gone through it. Really, no big surprises. I mean, it's pretty typical. And let me first ask: is there anybody that wants to have a paper copy of it, or can I send digital? One paper? Yeah. Okay. No problem. 2. No problem. Okay. We'll get those, and the rest I'll send digitally and include the new members. So I spoke with.
You'll send it to me, George.
Yeah, of course. Yes. You want paper or you want digital? So I spoke with.
Clay Tyler.
Chisel it in the rock. I spoke with Matt Lee, who's our school board's field rep, and I had asked him a couple of things. This goes back even into when we first finished them at the end of October, and I told him plainly, I said, selfishly, I'd love to be doing the review before I leave the board in December, but thinking about it, it's more important for the new board to get whatever might come out of the feedback and that sort of thing. So I asked him if he thought that early in the year, we had talked about, we have a board goal to try to advance our effectiveness as a board, our board performance. And it's not, Mr. Hurley was kind and said, don't sell yourself short. I don't think it's a matter of selling the board short, but a matter of realizing that it's hard to really sit still. You're either moving forward or you're moving backward. And so we're not looking to, at least my view was, we weren't looking for revolutionary, new to the world type things, but evolutionary steps we can do to improve. So I asked, or the board can do to improve. So I asked Matt if it would be possible for him, or if he thought he would have, the material to be able to come in at some point that you might decide and present the, New Jersey School Board's take and point of view on our evaluation and what comes out of that. I'm going to send to, with the printed copy, and I'll send my comments, just from my view, what it says. And that, some of the going to our goal of doing kind of a benchmarking and gap analysis of where we are and where we might make some steps, that he would, would he be able to make some comments about hallmarks and benchmarks of board best practices. And then, some examples of where he's seen boards or where somebody in school boards feels, boards are taking these kind of continuous improvement efforts. And so he said he'd happily come and do that. So that will be up to the next board and the superintendent to determine when and how that's done. But again, one of our board goals was to not at every meeting, but proactively schedule time to talk about and to advance our performance as a board, or the board's performance, I should say. Okay. So that's that. I'll send it around just to get it out. I'll send it around as is with no comments, and then I'll follow with my comments to the group.
Can I make a comment?
Yes, please.
Are you finished with that?
Yes.
Just a quick comment on that. I do see Matt Lee every month at our county meeting. So once we get the report and we have a chance, the reorg meeting is always a reorg meeting, right? We do some business, but not a lot. Committees usually aren't finalized till like that second meeting, right, in January. So by that time, we're kind of in place. If you feel following up with Matt is fine, I'll be seeing him. Be easy to share with him our meeting dates and get a date to come in. So it's something like Kevin suggested. You can read it, think about it, and we'll see where we want to go with it. I do think, I appreciate your comment that although this is this board, I talked before about the board coming to end and then a new board starting, any movement, right, that the board is going to take in any direction to adjust anything would be with the new board. So I think it is healthy to have that conversation in the new year. So I thank you for that. And once you get the form, we could talk about it maybe at our second meeting in January rather than at the reorg meeting, and then we can decide where we go from there.
I'm going to view it on a taping at www.
You'll be up there saying, "My name is Kevin McLean."
So very good.
Remember, only 3 minutes.
That
You only
really,
get 3 minutes.
That's right. That really was the only 2 points I had as a report, and then the comments that I made earlier, which again I wrote those comments intending to say them at the end of the meeting to you 10 people. But I thought it was good to share them with the group of townsfolk that were here, because what you guys do is important, and any good I've done, it's simply because I'm surrounded by good people, and with good people. So, thank you. We'll move on then to business for the evening, and we'll do first at 8:31. We open the floor to any member of the public wishing to make comment. Seeing no stampede to the microphone, at 8:31 we close the floor to members or comments from the public, and we move into new business where action will be taken. And Mrs. Ahmed, would you walk us through anything new with personnel and what's on this agenda for this evening?
Surely, we have 1 through 8 resolutions to be heard today. Number 1, Monica Rizzi for a long-term substitute English teacher at Union School. 2, Giuseppe Policino, a long-term substitute English teacher at Union Middle School. Number 3, Johnny McCabo, to approve Mr. Jacabo as a part-time bus driver for the Rutherford School District. 4, Ellen Gittleson, to approve an intermittent leave of absence under the Family Leave Act. 5, Bernadette Minervini, to extend the unpaid child rearing leave of absence. 6 and 7 has to deal with the same 2 people, Leah Jordan, Lauren Vivrito. 6 being to approve for substitute teachers, and 7 for substitute teacher assistants, the same 2. 8, travel reimbursements as followed. We have 6 teachers and 1 Brian Orsalicia supervisor. And with the superintendent's recommendation, I ask the board to move motions 1 through 8.
Thank you. Seconded
any
by Mr. Rowland. Any questions or comments on the resolutions in front of us? 1 through 8.
None on the resolutions, but one item on personnel. We welcome back Mr. Schweitzer, and we thank Mr. Ryan and Ms. Wright for the wonderful job they did in his absence.
Thank you. Additional questions, comments on personnel and items 1 through 8, which are in front of us? No? I'd ask the secretary then to poll the board.
Mrs. Ahmed?
Yes.
Dr. Owati?
Yes.
Mr. Healy?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Cabrera?
Yes.
Mr. Mazzone?
Yes.
Dr. Racine?
Yes.
Mr. Rowland?
Yes.
Mr. McLean?
Yes.
Motion's carried. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving into curriculum and instruction. Mrs. Jones, can you bring us up to date on
Certainly.
activities and what's in front of us?
There are 4 resolutions under curriculum and instruction for board members' consideration this evening. Resolution 1 is field trips, now totaling 85. Resolution 2, emergency bus evacuation drills. The schools have had them for the most part. Resolution 3, anti-bullying specialists. As the approved, the ones as Michelle Perez Hohen is the anti-bullying coordinator, and the ones listed are for each school. And the 4th resolution is for an overnight trip, is for the wrestling NJSIAA State Championships in Atlantic City, March 5 through March 7. And again, track field on April 23rd to 25th. So they're pretty self-explanatory. It's not.
We approve the overnight trips for athletics every year around this time
Right.
in the event that student athletes qualify, because if they do, then often we don't have the opportunity to have a board meeting in a timely fashion. So that may or may not occur depending on how they qualify.
And just as a matter of general edification, all staff is trained in recognizing bullying and reacting to it, but the coordinator and the specialists receive special training?
Yeah, they get special training. They're also the ones who make the determination of whether something is or isn't considered a HIB under the law, working in concert with the assistant principal. They work together to do both the determination, the investigation, the determination, and then the consequences, whether they be counseling side of it or a disciplinary consequence. That's why we have both parties working together.
Thank you.
I move resolutions 1 through 4 for curriculum and instruction.
Seconded by Dr. Eladi. Any last comments or questions on resolutions 1 through 4 under curriculum and instruction? Having none, ask the secretary to please pull the board.
Mrs. Ahmed?
Yes.
Dr. Oladi?
Yes.
Mr. Healy?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Librera?
Yes.
Mr. Mazzone?
Yes.
Dr. Racine?
Yes.
Mr. Rowland?
Yes.
Mr. McLean?
Yes.
Motion's carried. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving then into finance, Dr. Racine.
Yes, Finance, we have 6 motions tonight. The first 3 are standard approval of bills. Number 1, the October 2019 Secretary Treasurer's Report. Number 2. Number 3 are the budget transfers. It's listed in your packet. Number 4 is to approve a construction account with BCB Bank, which is, I'm assuming, the bond money?
Yes.
Going in. Right, so there'll be some money in there as of this week, the 19th. Number 5, the ESSA application. And number 6 is to approve a telephone audit, which, as actually, I'll talk later. I'd like to put those 6 forward.
Seconded by Mr. Mazzone. Questions or comments? Yes?
So I assume for number 6, we don't pay anything unless that they find that
Correct. Your telephone companies are notorious for padding bills and adding things in that you didn't necessarily want. So every so often we do this, and yeah, we don't pay them anything. They share 50-50 in any savings, current or past, that are realized, and then the bill will be fixed going forward. So we don't share any of that future savings with them.
One comment under finance that to contradict what I said earlier about committees not really being established till late in January, probably shortly after the reorganization meeting, I'll meet with the new board president, and we will finalize the finance committee, which will probably have a meeting very shortly after that meeting, because we have to get going with the budget process for the upcoming year. So that committee would be determined ahead of the others, and would meet probably early January. Okay. Keep in mind, committees do not need board approval at a meeting. Doesn't need a resolution. So once the committee is established, the only time a committee needs board approval is if we put non-school personnel or non-board members on it, with parents or students and the like.
May I just?
Yes, please.
Just on motion number 4 there, I just want to, I know I don't have to say this, but I'm going to anyway. That is not actually the account number. Those were supposed to be X's, not zeros. So just to be clear for anybody out there.
Okay. Those are all the questions or comments or public service warnings regarding motions 1 through 6 under finance and budget. We ask the secretary to please poll the board.
Mrs. Ahmed?
Yes.
Dr. Oladi?
Yes.
Mr. Healy?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Librera?
Yes.
Mr. Mazzone?
Yes.
Dr. Racine?
Yes.
Mr. Rowland?
Yes.
Mr. McLean?
Yes.
Motion's carried. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving then on to policy. Mr. Healy.
We did not have a policy committee meeting since our last board meeting, and tonight there are two motions being moved as a second reading. The two policies are revisions, and policy 110, policy 5711, I'm sorry, 5712, 5112, I'm sorry. I'll make sure my handwriting's bad. And as listed, and the changes are highlighted. So we'd like to put them forward for approval, review and approval, second reading.
And seconded by Dr. Alati. Questions or comments regarding these policy motions, 1 and 2? None? That's the
I had
secretary.
just one question.
Yes?
Are we going to use our official name of the Board of Education, shall be the Board of Education of Rutherford in the County of Bergen? Or is that the way it's going to read on anything we sent out, or just make reference to that?
I'm not sure what you're referring to.
Whereabouts?
The,
Right here.
Identification number 1.
Official name of the Board of Education shall be the Board of Education of Rutherford
Right.
in the County of Bergen.
why do we have to?
That is what we have to send in identification only for things that go, this policy is in our bylaw section of things that we have to submit official, this is not what we send to parents.
Okay.
But in that bylaw section, it talks about the free education from grades pre-K. So the change there is to make the free education from kindergarten on. So that's the bylaw section, not in terms of communication with the public.
Thank you.
Any other questions? No? And so these are,
Putting them forward for.
yes.
And they were seconded
And
by
then seconded by
Dr. Alati.
Yes. And ask the secretary to please pull the board.
Mrs. Ahmed?
Yes.
Dr. Alati?
Yes.
Mr. Healy?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Lebrera?
Yes.
Mr. Mazzone?
Yes.
Dr. Racine?
Yes.
Mr. Rowland?
Yes.
Mr. McLean?
Yes.
Motion's carried. Thank you.
Thank you. Then under building and grounds, Joan, any?
Under buildings and grounds, we've not had a committee meeting, nor is there any motions for this evening.
Thank you. Any comments or questions regarding building and grounds in general from any board member? If there's none, then that will conclude our action to be taken, and we move into old business. Any topic that a board member would like to bring up? Yes, Mrs.
I
Jones.
just want to tell you that I did have the opportunity to attend the Union School band concert, and it was really wonderful. The kids did such a great job. I was quite impressed. And I got to see Kurt Schweitzer, and he looks well, and I'm so glad to see him. I'm welcoming him back. And one more little aside thing. I'm the town Mrs. Claus. I've been doing this for years, but I've had the opportunity to read to the preschoolers this year. And I have read to preschoolers before because I've read to nursery schools and gone there. But I was so impressed with these 3-year-olds. They sat through 4 stories, and they really were good. And when I could ask a question, they participated in it. I was quite impressed to see how well they were, because 4 stories is a lot. That's 45 minutes. that
You're
we
Mrs.
read.
Claus, for goodness sakes.
Well,
They're
yes,
worried,
and I'm-
they're
and
worried
I'm
you have a
just
direct contact.
In my red velvet with the white fur trim. I mean, it's quite the thing.
But they know
But
you have direct communication with the big man.
They did too. It was wonderful. It really was. I do 4s, pre-K 4 this week, but I had a good time with it, and they were good. I read in Bayonne this weekend, and those kids weren't as good as ours.
That's great, and I'll make a comment as again leaving the board. You I think are the poster child, the example for engagement at public student activities. I
Absolutely.
applaud you for that. Wish very good.
Mr. President, I had in my
Yes.
notes to thank Mrs. Jones for bringing Mrs. Claus. I wasn't going to reveal that she was.
Ah, that's a good
But
point.
my granddaughter in pre-K 3 was very impressed. She loved it. Thank you.
They were good. Yeah,
That's
they
a
were.
good
They were,
point.
what- they
We
were
may
wonderful.
have to go back and scrub the videotape. of any,
It's on past their bedtime.
So, yes, Dr.
Say that this past week, I was able to attend the second cup of coffee with Bill McKay over at Washington School, and it was great. I mean, it was a really good presentation on building a resilient child. And so if you have a chance to go to any of these, do it. It's my first chance to go. And I hope that this can be a ongoing program.
Well,
Great.
you know, that's part of the Parent Academy. Now, Mr. Mulcahy has always done the second cup of coffee, but now we folded it into this Parent Academy and given it a little more publicity and a little more, you know, oomph behind it. And the crowds have gone from 10 or 15 or 20 parents to 50, 60 parents. We did a program here on vaping in the high school. We've done a program on anxiety. We've done one on bar modeling and math. And there's another 5 or 6 programs scheduled, ranging on topics from drug and alcohol use to resilient children, and you know, it's out there. We've published them. The Resilient Child is part of our social emotional learning program, and it was an outstanding presentation. The slideshow was done really, really well, and we're going to have an evening. We're bringing a speaker in as part of the academy on the same topic, a resilient child, in March, I believe it is. The dates there, I didn't come prepared to talk about this tonight, but the program is really moving along very, very well. And the responses have been, whether the crowd's been small or the crowd's been big, the response to all the programs have been very, very positive.
Very good, thank you. Yes, Mrs. Jones.
Just one more, but I think this is important. I also attended the Bergen County dinner last Thursday. Jim Gaffney is the president of that board, and he is from Paramus. He is the supervisor of special educations in Cliffside Park. He spoke, Monday was that bad snow day when we had, in many schools, had a one-session day. They had gotten to school and they learned of the death of one of their teachers, and it was an accident. And they were upset about that. Within 10 minutes after they had that news, they had a lockdown, the entire high school. Some students had already left the building and were going across the street, and police were there and helped them to get into firehouses and so forth. They had an irate parent that threatened to come to school with a gun. But what Jim was saying, that he was so impressed with the way the teachers handled themselves. We all know that there's training with that, and the police do such a good job. But this whole focus that particular night was on mindfulness. And he said he was just so sure that part of the training that they had helped them to be good. He said that the next day that they found out that the teachers were crying as they drove home. I mean, it was a half-day session. They had all that stress in one day. But they made a point of how imperative it is for every school. So here again, we're right up a little bit ahead of the game in that too. But I was so impressed with the way he spoke on this, because it was just right off the cuff. He just decided he wanted to share it, and it made the papers, I thought, for the day today.
Very good. Thank you. Any other topic? No? Mr. Rowland, as one of your last actions here, any legislative update?
Yes, at the last town council meeting and this current one, I brought up the fact that the town council, mayor and council meetings and our meetings conflict. I had to leave the mayor and council meeting today when there was still much to hear responses to. So we do push at these meetings, a few of us, to have it resolved that the opportunity for the public to come to things that affect them, should be easier, not harder. So hopefully, if you feel the same way, you may reach out to the town council and our liaison, let him know that the opportunity is more important than the attendance. The reason I was given that the the dates were not changed, it's continuing to be conflicting Mondays, is that the attendance was pretty much the same. But it's opportunities now that there are issues that the people in town are interested in pursuing more information for. It may become a bigger issue. It'd be nice if any other board members who feel that it would be important or prudent for us to have these on separate days would hopefully let the town council and the incoming mayor know, and hopefully we get some change. And there's also the idea that they will videotape, like we do, our meetings, so that the public will have access at their leisure to view what goes on in their town. That is my last legislative update.
Thank you, thank you. Was there, yes, please.
If I could, I just wanted to add in if it was appropriate under old business or under legislative update. But Greg and I did attend the semi-annual delegates meeting. We were merely stand-ins, just like that out. But it was very interesting for Greg and I to have an opportunity to be there. Hillsborough had an issue. Obviously, it's not an actionable group. I mean, they make recommendations, and is to allow them to go above the 2% cap in short order. Greg, I don't know if you want to expand on it.
It was districts who got less than the state promised amount to go above the cap to fill that amount. So they had a situation where they got hit pretty hard, several $1 million, a good chunk of their budget. So, and then I think the next day, the state legislator, they're talking about putting a motion forward. So it doesn't affect us, though.
It doesn't affect us, no. In fact, we were a tiny pittance of a beneficiary of trying to offset some of the imbalance that has gone for the states a long time. So, and at the time, I think you remember I was saying that I do understand where someone loses money that they've been getting and the impact that has. But there's also been an imbalance of the way state aid has been distributed. And some districts, and we certainly have not been rolling in the state aid, have been hurt for years. So it's, I understand their concern, but there'll be a lot of other districts complaining if a pendulum swings back.
It seems to be a Band-Aid, not a solution to the problem.
Yeah. And today, I think it was in the paper that the state has awarded several millions of dollars. I don't know, Mr. Kelly, if you saw that number. I don't want to give a number, but to many of what we used to call the Abbott districts, maybe we still do, $15 million of additional aid was given out today. So again, we're in a long line, and we're kind of in the back of the line. They usually run out of those Kaiser rolls by the time we get up to the front of the line. But we'll keep getting on the line.
Very good, thank you. No other comments on legislative update? With the calendar, so you'll be moving the calendar in January.
Our calendar is based on a couple of things. It's based on, first of all, conversations with the business office for paying bills, is based on statutory requirements of when we have to renew or non-renew staff, of when we have to get the preliminary budget approved, of when we have to get the final budget approved, and we aim for 3 weeks. Sometimes it's 2 weeks, sometimes it's 4 weeks because the district is closed on a Monday because there are many Monday holidays, okay? Maybe not many, but the holidays do fall on a Monday. And I want to remind everyone that we do videotape our meetings. The board has always met on Monday night. For at least 43 years, I can attest to. The mayor and council have met on Tuesday nights, and we make our meetings available via web and television. So, we're very, I'm sure the mayor and council have equal concerns about the timeliness of approvals that they need to pay their bills and to meet their, but, we don't have a lot of flexibility. And we can't go, I'll give you a great example. Mr. Kelly and I spoke just about 20 minutes before tonight's meeting, that we will probably have to put some business on the reorg meeting. If you remember, many years it's just the reorg, because with Dr. King's birthday on the 20th, the next potential date for a board meeting is the 27th, and that's too long. We can't go from December 9th to January 27th without bill approval, things like that. So we don't have a lot of flexibility, but I do want you all to know that Mr. Kelly and I are going to, Mr. Kelly and I have met twice with the mayor-elect, briefly, a couple minutes, but we have a rather lengthy meeting scheduled for next week to just review some things. And again, I want to remind everyone, and I reminded the mayor-elect of this, that there is always to be that separation between the Board of Education and the mayor and council in terms of control and areas of authority. However, it's always good to have cooperation and collaboration. And I do want to say that I am extremely impressed, have been since I was a teacher here, with the shared services that we have, with the efforts we make to work together on the day-to-day operation. Now, things come up that exceed day-to-day operations sometimes, from our end sometimes, and on their end, right? And communication about those things, very important. So it's a new day for, and again, I say this just because of the reality, a new mayor and council step in on January 1. A new Board of Education steps in on January 4, I guess, or whatever the date, 5th, whatever the day may be. And, that gives a chance, every time there's a sense of newness, even though some of the new is returning folks, right? It's a chance for some dialogue. But we do have that meeting scheduled. Okay?
Thank you. At 8:56, we open the meeting to public comment. No further comment. We close the meeting to public comment, and we do have a need for an executive session for 3 student matters this evening.
No action.
So moved by Mr. Mazzone and seconded by Ms. Libera.
Hit the gavel.
We'll be in session about
5 minutes.
10 minutes, and no action to be taken?
No action to be taken.
Okay. All in favor? Aye. We're in executive session.